and at 10 to 15. For tonight, mainly clear, low at around 30, and tomorrow we'll rebound to
Good morning and welcome to the Greg Belfrage Show. We're just getting ready to get going. Thanks so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
That's your weather update from the Storm
Appreciate you. Couldn't do this without you.
Having trouble receiving Kello at 107.9? If you're in the Sioux
And
Falls metro,
the meltdowns that are going on the left, just absolutely incredible.
105.1.
Late night television was just,
Doctor of Discernment is on the air.
I love the Greg Belfrage Show.
I've been listening to you for years, Greg. Thanks for all you do and keeping us informed.
You sound a little taller on radio.
Dispensing a daily dose of common sense. No prescription required.
Americans love a winner and will not tolerate a loser. Americans play to win all the time. I don't believe in the no-win scenario.
This is the Greg Belfrage.
Good morning, my friend. The marketplace of ideas is open. Welcome to the Greg Belfrage Show this Thursday morning, November 7th. It is really great to have you along. So Kamala Harris now has officially conceded the race to Donald Trump. In fact, she reached out to Donald Trump. She also spoke to her reporters yesterday. President Joe Biden also reached out to Donald Trump yesterday. So Kamala Harris saying yesterday, "My heart is full today, full of gratitude for the trust you placed in me, full of love for my country, and full of resolve," she said. "The outcome of this election is not what we wanted, not what we fought for, not what we voted for. But hear me when I say the light of the American promise will always burn bright as long as we never give up and as long as we keep fighting." So she was talking to her supporters yesterday at Howard University in Washington, D.C., which is a historically black college. And she acknowledged then that supporters were feeling and experience a range of emotions right now. "I get it," she said, "but we must accept the results of this election. Fundamental principle of American democracy is that when we lose an election, we accept the results. That principle, as much as any other, distinguishes democracy from a monarchy or tyranny, and anyone who seeks the public trust must honor it," she said. So she conceded the presidential election to Donald Trump yesterday. And she also spoke with Trump on the phone to congratulate him. And then, as I just mentioned, she told the crowd they might feel dark times are ahead, but she hopes that's not the case. There was a meltdown on late night television, and it's just absolutely incredible. There are a number of people who were melting down. And I think what you're finding, maybe I'm wrong about this, but I think we're getting a pretty clear view at people who can be serious and those who are just scream. You know what I mean? I think the serious Americans spoke up. And it's just absolutely incredible to watch their reaction. Also, Donald Trump now. Let's talk about Trump. Trump also, his day one agenda likely to be focused on the border. And Jason Miller, who is one of Donald Trump's senior campaign advisors, said all of the secure border policies that we had in place with President Trump, he can simply flip the switch and put those back in place just like they were before. They didn't need an act of Congress. So this was Jason Miller yesterday on NBC. And Trump has repeated that. He said, "On day one, I will launch the largest deportation program in American history." So as to whether or not he'll be able to do that remains to be seen. The also he has, he talked about drilling. So a lot of these, in terms of what he will do when he returns to the office, a lot of this is coming from statements that he made while he was out on the campaign trail. He has talked about foreign policy. He has talked about Ukraine. He's talked about getting Ukraine and Russia together and, ending the war that's been ongoing in Ukraine. So we'll see more of this. Again, as you're hearing from Fox News Radio this morning, they're in the process of determining what Donald Trump's, cabinet will look like, so on. His transition team is working on that, and you already heard some of the. I would love to see Pompeo come back. I just think he would be a great choice to see him back again in charge of America's defense. So Robert F. Kennedy Jr., is one of those who was supporting Donald Trump during the campaign and really an outsider. He's not from within the Republican Party, just like Elon Musk, just like Tulsi Gabbard until recently. She just joined the Republican Party. But Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is talking about the role that he will play in the new Trump administration, and he's trying to calm people. He said, "I'm not going to take away anybody's vaccines," he said during an interview with NBC. He said, "If vaccines are working for somebody, I'm not going to take them away. People ought to have a choice, and that choice ought to be informed by the best information," he said. Also talked about his concerns over fluoride in the country's water supply. There are a number of public health groups that say fluoride in water is actually beneficial and helps reduce tooth decay. And he says, a fluoride, I think the faster that it goes out, the better. Not going to compel anybody to take it out, but I'm going to advise water districts of their legal liability, he said. Kennedy, at least this was yesterday, but he said he would be meeting with Trump aides yesterday to discuss his potential role. And they hadn't decided yet exactly what his new job will be in the Trump administration. Yeah, I think they could have to be careful with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Also, there are and Newsmax has got a piece this morning. Pollsters again underestimate Trump support. Duh, you think? What? The Jon Stewart, among the left-wing reaction, Jon Stewart, who I find very funny. Jon Stewart, the host of The Daily Show, I find him to be very funny. But so on his program, he had a message for the pollsters, and it's basically, F them. What was his reaction? What have I been telling you for weeks and months regarding these polls? I do not believe these polls. Do not believe these polls. I don't believe that they're correct. Get out and vote. Get out and make your voice heard. Regardless of what you believe, just get out there and vote. Do not believe the polls. Do not be guided by the polls. I have been saying that for a long time. Now, if a kid from Sioux Falls, South Dakota could see that, how can a guy who is as successful as Jon Stewart not see it? I mean, that to me is just like obvious. It's right in front of my face. How do you not see that? The polls can't be trusted. I think we've gotten to a point where the polls are irrelevant. I would love to see the polls go away. Seriously. And if a campaign wants to do polling, so on, whatever, okay, great. But as far as so many of these polls, especially the presidential polls, so many of them are meaningless. And then I look at the sample. Well, the sample size is 1,400 people. 1,400 people in a country of millions? I mean, so I have been telling you for a long time, disregard the polls. Do not pay attention to them. And Jon Stewart was like, we were watching the polls, and it's like, well, there's your problem right there. That's your problem. Stop watching the polls. So Newsmax has got a piece about pollsters underestimating Donald Trump's support. You know what pollsters will be doing now? They're out there making excuses. We see this every election. You've seen it before. The pollsters are out there making excuses for why they were wrong. Whereas I don't care. I didn't believe their polls in the first place. You know what I mean? Just absolutely incredible what you see. JustTheNews.com has got a piece this morning about the early ground game that Republicans engaged in, and that is in part responsible for Donald Trump and his historic comeback. And pollster Scott Rasmussen is talking about this. Early voting has become a tool that Republicans have decided to come around on. He said, I heard from a lot of Republicans who said, I don't like early voting. I don't think we should do this, but we have to win if we want to change the rules. So, I don't think this is an issue that's going to go away, but it has changed the game. He told JustTheNews.com. And he said the idea of early voting is a relatively new phenomenon. It certainly is among Republicans. And he said, when I started polling, it just didn't exist except for absentee ballots. And in 2020, because of the pandemic, it took on a new form in ways that we never could have imagined just a couple of decades ago, he said. But Republicans now are totally in the game, and I think that changes it. I think they have to be. Donald Trump, you remember Donald Trump had a change of, he was solidly against early voting and, a number of years ago. And I think as this was explained to him by a number of folks, you can only imagine that he changed his position on it in terms of encouraging people to get out and vote early. Donald Trump, he voted on election day, like many of us did. But the issue of early voting, and so it's changed the math for Republicans. Also, House Speaker Mike Johnson, speaking of Republicans, it's certainly looking like Republicans are going to hold on to the majority in the House. There have been a few seats that have gone to Democrats. So it will likely be a thinner margin that Republicans will have in the House, but they are likely to hold on to the House. And if that winds up being the case, that will be Republicans then in charge of all three branches, the presidency, the House, the Senate. Shouldn't say all three branches because you've got the more independent judicial branch, but that will put Republicans certainly in a solid position in the executive branch and then Congress controlling those three. So Mike Johnson talking about that. And he's predicting that Republicans will keep control of the House and that he will be elected as Speaker again. He said, we're going to run those plays and execute them with precision. You've got to keep the quarterback on the field and keep the same team. Which is a pretty solid argument, I think, as to keeping Mike Johnson as Speaker of the House. All right, there's some other stories here statewide that I also wanted to touch on. Of course, we had Congressman Dusty Johnson and his response here Tuesday night. And Kelloland TV has a great story on this. And I really appreciate what Congressman Johnson is saying. And he said, it's not me that's good at winning. It's our team. I know I can lose this race alone, but I could never win it alone. It takes an incredible family. It takes a team on the official side. It takes a great campaign team, he said. And just like Donald Trump, one of the big things on his mind is immigration. He said it's just too easy to get here illegally, and it's just too hard to get here legally. The number one thing I would like to put back in place is the Remain in Mexico policy that President Trump had. So he was then also asked, now again, this was a story from Kelloland TV. And Congressman Johnson was asked, well, what do you say to someone who says, you know, that he's not MAGA enough, or someone who supported Cheryl Johnson who ran against Dusty Johnson? What do you say to the voter who is looking at you with arms crossed? And I really appreciated what Dusty Johnson said here. He said, well, listen, I'm not Cheryl Johnson and I'm not Donald Trump. I'm just Dusty Johnson. And I will work with anybody to do good. We have a government that is too big, that is too intrusive. We have a border that is in crisis. We have been spending way beyond our means. Let's go tackle that together, and we can worry about the labels later, he said. So that was Congressman Dusty Johnson. Also, you've got South Dakota's congressional leaders, including the congressman, all congratulating Donald Trump. And Senator Thune said, congratulations to President Trump and Senator Vance on their hard-fought victory. The American people have chosen to turn the page on the Biden-Harris administration's failed policies of high prices and open borders, and instead chart a new course for our country. The incoming Senate Republican majority will work hand in hand with the Trump-Vance administration to lower costs for families, secure our southern border, and renew America's energy dominance. The work begins now, Thune said. Senator Rounds also congratulating Trump and Vance, and he said, with the Republican Senate during President Trump's first term, we saw record job growth, reduced regulations, a renewed focus on our national security. Together, we will work to deliver those same results for South Dakota and the American people. And he said, President Trump said last night that the Republican Party is the party of common sense. I couldn't agree more. And he said, I look forward to working with President Trump to advance conservative policies that will rebuild the economy, secure our border, provide for a strong national defense, and make America great again. So that was South Dakota's congressional delegation and their reaction to Donald Trump winning the election this week. They finally finished counting the ballots in Minnehaha County. What in the hell has been going on in Minnehaha County? It's absolutely incredible. They finally finished counting ballots at 1 p.m. yesterday. So it wasn't until early yesterday afternoon There was an IT delay, apparently, in uploading the files. That and it took a while. This report from the Dakota Scout. I want to give them credit. Jonathan Ellis has got a piece at the Dakota Scout, and he talked to Minnehaha County's auditor, Leah Anderson, and she said, well, we've been done for a while. We're just waiting for it to upload. So there were questions regarding this, and I was hearing from people, and I don't know if you watched the Secretary of State website. If you're looking for, you want to see voting results, you go to the South Dakota Secretary of State's website. They've got a really great website, and it's showing you how the vote is, as the ballots are being counted and turned in, and you see how the vote is going. And I went and I looked at Minnehaha County yesterday, and it was shocking the low number of precincts that had been. It's like, what in the world is going on? So the vote was finally completely tabulated by 1 p.m. yesterday. And that's a look at the big stories this morning. Thanks so much for starting your day with the Greg Belfrage Show. It's great to have you here. 627, hazy and 29. This hour of our show brought to you by the Window Shop of Mitchell, offering custom windows starting at $99 a month.
Camp and Robbins, weekdays at 2. Callow, News Talk 1320, 107.9.
The Kello Hotline is brought to you by Tires. See in-store details about how to get rebates from major tire manufacturers. 2 Sioux Falls locations to serve you.
Leaves are falling. Get your gutters clean and replace this fall and get ahead of the predicted wet, heavy snow with ABC.
Elections are a big part of that auditor's job.
They like to thank Sioux Falls. Call today.
Should it take so long? I mean, I understand Sioux Falls has got a lot, Minnehaha County, it's got a lot more citizens than other counties across the state. Understood? But man, 1 p.m. on Wednesday? Does that seem ridiculous to you, or am I just carrying on?
An all-in-one Medicare Advantage option with Medicare Parts A and B.
Okay.
$0 premiums and copays and extra benefits. It's one complete plan to care for the whole year, all from a local insurance provider you can trust. Do more with Medicare. Do more with Align by Sanford Health Plan. Open enrollment begins October 15th. For a free guide, visit align.sanfordhealthplan.com today.
You think our country's going in the right direction, or does it feel like everything's falling apart? If you're a bit concerned, you're not alone. In fact, Americans from all walks of life have taken action to prepare for whatever's coming next. And that starts with having an emergency food supply. Storing food in your home is the right thing to do because we're living in crazy times, which explains why so many people are preparing. Right now, you can get ready too with a 3-month emergency food kit from My Patriot Supply. It comes with delicious foods like creamy stroganoff, honey wheat bread, and mushroom rice pilaf, all offering over 2,000 calories every day. Their food kit lasts up to 25 years. Who knows what our country will look like then? But when that day comes, you'll be ready. Go to MyPatriotSupply.com now to order your 3-month emergency food kit from My Patriot Supply. Go to MyPatriotSupply.com.
629, hazy skies, 29 currently at Kello. Joe Bowman is in the Kello.com News Center. Final ballots from Minnehaha County are in. Also, this election produced an overwhelming defeat for supporters of a proposed carbon capture pipeline in South Dakota. Joe will have those details coming up for you in moments. I want to remind you that we've got tickets for you to see Jim Brickman is coming to the Washington Pavilion Sunday, November 17th. And if you would like a chance to win 2 tickets, all you have to do is text Brickman to 605-336-3636. 1320, and you're in. It's that easy. Just text it to us, Brickman, to 605-336-1320. You're listening to Kello.
Are closing in on control of both houses of Congress, defending their narrowest House majority in decades and taking the Senate majority.
We're watching Pennsylvania's Senate race, which is still too close to call. Republican Dave McCormick leading incumbent Democratic Senator Bob Casey by less than half a point, about 30,000 votes at this rate. An automatic recount does hit, according to Commonwealth law here in Pennsylvania.
Fox's Brian Yennis in Philadelphia. President Biden will address the nation this morning at 11 Eastern, his first public appearance since Donald Trump won the election. And Israel's new defense minister takes office today.
Israel Katz is the country's former foreign minister, and he'll be replacing Yoav Gallant, the man that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu fired.
Fox's Trey Yingst in Tel Aviv. America's listening to Fox News.
News brought to you by Sioux Falls Implant and Sedation Dentistry. They fix your teeth while you sleep.
Kello News Time 6:31. I'm Joe Bowman in the Kello.com News Center. The final ballots from Minnehaha County are in. County Auditor Leah Anderson said the delay was due to significant voter turnout, including counting all the absentee ballots. And the final count on voter turnout in the state of South Dakota this election, almost 70% of registered voters. That's over 436,000 ballots cast. The 2024 election produced an overwhelming defeat for supporters of a proposed carbon capture pipeline here in South Dakota. It was referred Law 21, a law called the Landowner's Bill of Rights when the legislature approved it, but it was rejected at the polls by almost 60% of the vote, losing in every county except Union. Pipeline opponent Ed Fishbach says it was a real David and Goliath confrontation.
People power can overcome big money. And, it's refreshing to see that people can see through some of the stuff that was said in the ads of the money that was spent against us, some of the misinformation that was put out there.
Despite the defeat, Summit Carbon Solutions, the company that wants to build the line, plans to move ahead with another application for permits to build. The Dakota Scout reports Summit hasn't changed its plans. People on both sides of the issue say the election loss isn't necessarily a kill shot to the project. The South Dakota Department of Transportation's 5th annual snowplow naming contest is open. The DOT is looking for the state's best blizzard puns and plow-themed names. The contest has drawn an average of 700 submissions each year. If you've got an idea for a name, you can submit it to the DOT's website. The contest ends December 6th. And in sports, the South Dakota men's basketball team earned its second win of the season, beating Texas A&M Commerce 91-83 last night. In women's volleyball tonight, SDSU hosts St. Thomas. The Jackrabbits are undefeated with 22 wins, and the Coyotes head up to Fargo to take on North Dakota State. From the Kello.com News Center, I'm Joe Bowman.
The news never stops. Kello News Talk 1320 107.9.
Mostly sunny skies today. Our high temperature at 51 with a southwest wind 10 to 15. For tonight, clear skies, a low around 30. Tomorrow, a little warmer. We'll get close to 60 in the afternoon with increasing clouds. Rain chances will be on the increase as we head into Saturday with a high close to 50. That's your weather update from the Storm Center at Kettleland TV. I'm meteorologist Brian Carstens.
News as it unfolds and your chance to talk about it. Kello News Talk 1320 107.9 and Kello.com.
The election is done, over, finished. It ended Wednesday morning at 1:45 a.m. Or maybe not. I'm Kim Commando for T-Mobile. Their advanced network now goes farther than ever before. Visit T-Mobile.com/55 today. The election was so polarizing that Google has stepped in and has begun moderating, maybe a better word is babysitting, employees' emails and internal communications. Google employees have been warned to focus on business and to knock off the political smack talk and memes. Despite the warnings, employees continue posting those political memes and criticizing Google's policies. Google put its foot down and will fire employees who persist. As Google says, whomever the voters entrust, let's remember the role we play at work and the products we build. Our business is to be a trusted source of information to people of every background and belief. Finally, big tech gets it. So let's move on, shall we? Keep the tech smarts going with my free newsletter. Sign up at getkim.com. Hey friends, Kim here. You know, it seems the older you get, the savvier you become at saving money. I really hate to overspend on things, especially the necessities. But thanks to T-Mobile, I don't have to worry about overpaying for wireless service, so I've got more time and money to spend on other things. At T-Mobile, customers 55 and up can get 2 lines of talk, text, and data for just $30 a month per line. That's a 45% savings versus Verizon and AT&T. Plus, Scam Shield Premium is included, which means fewer scam calls and more tools to help you optimize and organize your mobile life. Experience all this and more with T-Mobile, America's largest 5G network. Don't miss out. Get 2 lines of talk, text, and data for $30 a month per line at T-Mobile. Visit T-Mobile.com or your local store to make the switch and save.
With auto pay using debit or bank account plus taxes and fees. 45% off 2 lines versus AT&T Struggle with Verizon Welcome. Plan benefits vary. See details. Capable device required for Scan Shield. Print on Scan Block. My Block calls you off. Disable anytime.
The Kim Commando Show, live Saturday mornings at 9. Kello News Talk 1320, 107.9.
The Kello Hotline is brought to you by Tires, your Give You More tire and automotive store. Financing programs available. 2 Sioux Falls locations to serve you.
Revolutionize your home lighting with D&D Electric for as low as $600. Using LED wafers, the beautiful new trend that replaces can lights will provide bright and streamlined beauty. Visit d-delectric.com today. We provide the power. How you use it is up to you.
Are you paying too much for your insurance? As insurance prices continue to rise, the best way to make sure you're not paying too much is to shop around. This is Jim and Janet with Empire Insurance. We work with over a dozen different companies to get the best fit for you. EmpireInsuranceAgencyInc.com.
I want to tell you about my friends at 49th Street Liquor. They're right at 49th in Minnesota. And if you haven't been there yet, stop in and check it out. I think you're really going to enjoy it. The staff there is just incredibly friendly. Happy to show you, lead you to whatever it is you're looking for. If you've got questions, they're happy to answer them. And you're going to find all your favorite beer, wine, and spirits at 49th Street Liquor. They've got a huge walk-in beer cave, a number of local beers there as well. Also, all kinds of seltzers. These are, some of them are new brands, and they've got more flavor than some of the originals. So you can buy them in singles. They've also got a incredible humidor and a variety of fine cigars. The Dakota Butcher products are just absolutely great. Fresh meats, steaks, pickled products, and hot sauce. Here's the thing about 49th Street Liquor. Get an evening coming up. You want a special evening, stop and get, if you're like me, you enjoy bourbon, you pick up some bourbon and some Dakota Butcher products, and that's the start of a great evening, I think. They've also got a private video lottery space at 49th Street Liquor, so stop in, give them a try. Your happy hour starts at the new 49th Street Liquor at 49th in Minnesota.
Okay, some mornings you might not have that get up and go.
Ooh, but at least you can get up and go.
The Greg Belfrage Show, with insightful opinions on the latest stories and frequent weather updates. It'll get you in the know while you're getting...
.39. Sky's a little bit hazy, starting to clear up already this morning. 29 currently at Kello. Great to have you along this hour of the Greg Belfrage Show, brought to you by the Window Shop of Mitchell, offering custom windows starting at $99 a month.
What's trending now?
Add them on Facebook.
Let the tweeting begin. The hashtag does that. News and views from Belf's News.
Well, both Kamala Harris and President Joe Biden called Donald Trump yesterday and visited with him privately. The president calling him to congratulate him on his victory. And isn't that such a weird situation? You have got, Donald Trump president, Joe Biden, and then back to Donald Trump again. That is just, it's just a whole, so many unique circumstances that we're seeing this year. So the president congratulated Trump, invited him to the White House to discuss the transition. And the White House said the staff would coordinate a date in the near future. So that's not been arranged yet. But the president plans to address the country on the election results coming up at some point today. So he also called Vice President Harris to congratulate her on her campaign. Kamala Harris also calling Donald Trump. And then she also spoke to her supporters, delivered her concession speech. And she said, while I concede the election, I do not concede the fight that fueled this campaign, the fight for freedom, for opportunity, for fairness, and the dignity of all people, a fight for the ideals at the heart of our nation, the ideals that reflect America at our best. This is a fight I will never give up, she said. And then she also said her heart was full as she was, she's surrounded by supporters. And she said the outcome of this election is not what we wanted, not what we fought for, not what we voted for, but hear me when I say the light of America's promise will always burn bright as long as we never give up, as long as we keep fighting. So those were among the comments then that Kamala Harris made yesterday. Meanwhile, there's a lot of recriminations that are taking place. Wow. CNN was told by a senior Harris campaign official that many Democrats privately feel that Joe Biden bears a lot of the blame for Kamala Harris and her defeat. He waited so long. The fact that Joe Biden waited so long, and that so that he's the one to blame. Well, did he? I mean, Democrats had been pushing like mad, trying to get him out of the race and out of the contest. Just pushing him like mad, and he waited. Literally, he waited until nearly she only had a 100-day campaign. And now you're hearing a lot of folks who are speaking that, okay, 100 days is not very much time. And I would agree. Can you imagine in 100 days launching a presidential campaign and trying to get out there? It's not very much time. And yet I heard one of the pollsters talking this morning, or one of the analysts on the Fox News rundown, saying that really it was the last month, nobody really has shifted at all. I mean, folks who were voting for Trump, they made the decision a month ago to vote for Donald Trump, which means then, she really didn't have very much time at all to make the case. I don't know, that thing could have gone on for a year with her, and I don't think it would have gotten any better. In fact, I think she would have hemorrhaged even more support if she had more time. So Democrats are upset. There's a lot of recriminations and finger pointing. I'm trying to see who would. Oh, this is a CNN correspondent, MJ Lee, who was interviewed by Wolf Blitzer on Monday. And she said she was sharing what she had heard from the Harris campaign. And Lee said, obviously, there will be a lot of soul searching and a lot of questions in the coming days about what, if anything, could Democrats and the Harris campaign have done differently. See, I think it's bigger than that. I think it's so much bigger than that. What's going on in the Democratic Party? if people are not buying the Kamala Harris and her, freedom, we love freedom, I didn't believe that for a moment. I was never convinced of that. Were you? So, not that I expect the Democrats are going to be able to easily convince Republicans, but I could see right through her. Well, if I can see right through her, so could other voters. You've got to imagine then that a number of Democrats also could see right through her, didn't believe what she was saying. So it's a lot of finger pointing. I don't know that it's helpful, honestly, at this point. The Democrat Party and the legacy media both need an incredible overhaul. If the Democrats wish to win an election again, they really have got to have a serious sit down and take a look at the people who are driving their party and the agenda of those who are driving their party, how out of step they are with folks on Main Street America. I don't see that happening. Do you? I think the Democrat Party at this point, we'll see. But also, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is promising not to take away vaccines. He made this promise yesterday. He has been touted as an anti-vaccine activist. And so there has been a suggestion then that he would be a public health official during Donald Trump's second administration. And he now is rejecting then these allegations that he's anti-vaccine. And he told NBC, I'm not going to take away anybody's vaccines. If vaccines are working for somebody, I'm not going to take them away. People ought to have the choice, and that choice ought to be informed by the best information. He said, I'm going to make sure scientific safety studies and efficacy are out there, and people can make individual assessments about whether that product is going to be good for them, he said. Also, the Department of Justice will be closing the Jack Smith criminal cases against Donald Trump. Oh, yeah. Hit the road, Jack. So the Justice Department is moving to wind down the 2 federal criminal cases against Donald Trump to comply with agency policy against prosecuting a sitting president. So NBC News said the DOJ sees no avenue to hold trials soon for the 2 cases brought by special counsel Jack Smith. Now, these are the federal cases. We don't know what's going to happen with the state cases. We don't know what's going to happen in the case where he's already been convicted. And I know some of you are a little bit nervous about that. And given the bizarro world antics that I see every day, I understand the concern. Share your concern. So anyway, Jack Smith is out. DOJ doesn't see any avenue then to continue to prosecute those cases. Also, forgive me, my story's a bit out of order. And I mentioned this earlier about Kamala Harris calling Donald Trump yesterday, congratulating Donald Trump on his victory. And there's been a lot of that, a number of stories. The owner of the Washington Post, Jeff Bezos, wished Trump big congratulations, he said, on his win. Big congratulations to our 45th and now 47th president on an extraordinary political comeback and decisive victory, he said on X. No nation has bigger opportunities wishing Trump all success in leading and uniting the America we all love. What Bezos said. Also, Mark Cuban, who was out, as you'll remember, had endorsed Kamala Harris and was out actually on the campaign trail, stumping for Kamala Harris. Mark Cuban also wrote on X, "Congrats, Donald Trump. You won fair and square." Congrats to Elon Musk as well. So there are folks who are out there and wishing Trump good luck. Also, there is a story about Donald Trump won Michigan and flipping the state again. So Trump won Michigan's 15 electoral college votes, flipping the state again in a victory over Kamala Harris, according to election results. So Michigan is one of those states that's critically important. Winning Michigan was a big key then to Donald Trump's success on election night. Speaking of others who enjoyed success on election night, Senator Amy Klobuchar of Minnesota won a fourth term this week. So she'll be representing Minnesota again in the U.S. Senate. She defeated Republican Royce White, and she won by nearly 16-point margin. So she won fairly handily in Minnesota. Also, Tim Sheehy defeated Democratic Senator John Tester to win the Senate seat from Montana. Sheehy is a former Navy SEAL, also businessman, and very was pushed hard by the GOP as one of the strongest chances to pick up a Senate seat. So Tim Sheehy winning this week. And these stories are a little bit dated, I know, but these are the stories that are trending this morning. Also, Florida's Amendment 3 on recreational marijuana was rejected by Florida voters. So this is blocking the way for recreational marijuana use in that state. And of course, Florida joining South Dakota. Same thing happening. In fact, I've got other stories regarding this. But Florida's Amendment 3, no recreational marijuana use in Florida. There's several Florida stories that are trending. Florida voters also decided against an abortion rights amendment. Florida was one of 10 states voting on abortion-related ballot measures. And the amendment would have enshrined abortion into Florida's constitution up to 24 weeks. Well, it was defeated, just as we saw similar efforts in South Dakota were defeated. The South Dakota and Florida have got a lot of things in common this election cycle. So Florida Governor Ron DeSantis had campaigned against the measure, and it was defeated. Arizona voters went the other way. They enshrined abortion access this year. So Arizona, this was on the ballot in Arizona, and it passed in Arizona. So there's one story is out there that because this was up in a number of states. Voters in Missouri cleared the way to undo one of the nation's most restrictive abortion bans. Was one of 7 victories for abortion rights advocates. Actually, I think it's meant to be defeats. Florida, Nebraska, South Dakota defeated similar constitutional amendments. So, in fact, Florida, Nebraska, South Dakota became the first state since Roe was overturned where abortion opponents prevailed on a ballot measure. Most voters supported the Florida measure, but it fell short of the required 60%. Also, Representative Andy Kim became the first Korean American to win a Senate race in U.S. history. This is in New Jersey's 3rd congressional district. So he won the state's open seat. This is the seat that had been held by Bob Menendez. You'll remember it was indicted on federal bribery and corruption charges last year. So Menendez then finally gave up the seat, and it went to Representative Andy Kim, the first Korean American to win a U.S. Senate race. Other stories trending this morning, shares of Tesla are soaring since the Donald Trump victory. So remember, who's the CEO of Tesla? Elon Musk. The shares are soaring, rather. And that's a look at the stories trending this morning in Belf's News Gallery. Thanks so much for being here this morning. 6:57. Clear skies, 29. This hour of the Greg Belfrage Show brought to you by the Window Shop of Mitchell, offering custom windows starting at $99 a month.
Close to home or halfway around the world.
Thanks for joining me for the 6 a.m. hour. Please return at 9:30 as we do the 4th hour of the Greg Belfrage Show, both on YouTube and Facebook. So I really appreciate having you along. Thanks so much. Drop me an email anytime, greg.belfrage@kelo.com, and I'll talk to you again soon.
New Medicare Supplement Agility Plus Plan G. Contact your local agent or request a quote online. Avera Health